I lay restless in my familiar apartment, the hum of the city lulling me into a half-sleep, my clock face glowing 2:12 a.m. as silence settled around me. At 2:13 a.m., a faint whisper drifted from the hallway. Perhaps the wind, but distinctly human. A voice so close yet impossibly distant, stirring a cold dread within me. I held my breath, straining to catch the words lost to darkness. Each inhalation trembling, the hush around me stretching taut like a held breath before a storm. My phone lay on the bedside table, its screen dark but for a single notification icon. Yet no alert had arrived, and the silence felt deliberate, almost watchful. I rose slowly, every movement heavy, leaves of memory rustling in my mind with childhood echoes of unseen presences lurking just beyond sight. The hallway was empty, the once familiar corridor now cast in unsettling shadows, walls seeming to pulse with silent whispers that I could almost hear. A door at the far end groaned open, though no breeze stirred. Its movement was measured, deliberate, as if guided by an unseen hand beckoning me closer. My reflection shimmered in the glass door, distorted and pale, and I could have sworn my eyes traced a movement behind me. Yet nothing was there. A low, sorrowful sigh escaped from within the apartment, the air growing thick and humid, pressing in on me like the thin walls of a coffin. I stepped back, my pulse thrumming, but something urged me forward, a pull as intangible as the midnight breeze that seemed to carry voices just out of reach. I pressed close to the cracked door, the narrow gap revealing only shadows dancing against a flickering hall light, my heart striking unforgettable notes of fear. My hand, gloved in sweat, clasped the cold knob, each subtle rotation sending tremors up my arm as the air thickened with unspoken warnings. A muffled sob resonated from the dark interior, raw and mournful, wrapping around my senses like an icy chain tightening its grip. I opened the door an inch, the sliver of darkness stretching into eternity, revealing nothing but the empty room and the weight of absence pressing in. At that moment, a breath brushed against my neck, soft and chilling, as though someone ghosted past me an instant before I could turn. I spun around, eyes wide, whispering my own name, yet the corridor remained still, save for the distant hum of distant traffic. My reflection in the window rippled unnaturally, and I saw more than my face, something behind me, vanishing when I dared to look directly. Panic bloomed in my chest, heart pounding, but my legs carried me onward, driven by a need to confront the source of these vanished voices. Each step echoed through the hollow flat, and the walls seemed to recede into darkness, swallowing the path forward in silent black. In the living room, the pale glow of my old fireplace flickered out of sync, its embers whispering secrets I couldn't quite decipher. The floorboards creaked beneath my weight, as if the very wood murmured warnings, each step a soft confession of the apartment's hidden sorrow. A sudden chill enveloped me, the air swirling with unseen currents, carrying fragments of distant laughter that felt both familiar and horribly alien. I paused by the window, staring out at a silent cityscape, the streetlights flickering in unison as though dancing to a dying heartbeat I couldn't escape. Behind me, a soft scraping sound traced the wall's surface, slow and deliberate, like fingernails brushing cold plaster in a desperate plea. My breath hitched as the room's shadows thickened, each corner pooling into deeper darkness, swallowing any trace of certainty I once held. A distant melody drifted through the flat, each note fraying at the edges, as if played on an old piano with broken strings. I followed the sound, fingertips grazing the wallpaper, its pattern warping under my touch as if alive, pulsing with unseen life. A soft sobbing met me at the threshold of the kitchen, the sink faucet dripping an irregular rhythm, each drop echoing like a heartbeat. I blinked, and the faucet stopped, replaced by a single, sharp intake of breath from the opposite corner, unseen but undeniably there. My own reflection stared back, lips moving in silent prayer. Yet I was alone. Alone with voices that vanished the moment I sought their source. A faint flicker of movement among the dying embers caught my eye, each glowing spark dancing like embattled fireflies trapped in a midnight trance. The piano's broken melody returned for a heartbeat, its notes lingering between walls, each chord unraveling the threads of my fragile resolve. A soft thud echoed from above, the ceiling settling or something pacing overhead, its weight shifting the very air with heavy uncertainty. My vision blurred as dust motes swirled, revealing silhouettes etched into wallpaper, faces screaming silently behind faded floral patterns. A muted cry rose behind the living room drapes, a child's sob trapped in time, resonating through my bones with uncanny familiarity. I approached the drapes, fingertips grazing the fabric as it pulsed against my touch, as though something on the other side strained to break free. The fabric parted just an inch, revealing a sepia-tinted hallway, endless and deserted, as if I'd stepped into someone's forgotten memory. Cold breath grazed my temple, and I whirled to find empty air, yet the oppressive hush remained, a living thing that refused to dissipate. My phone screen illuminated in my palm, its wallpaper changed to a child's portrait I didn't own, their eyes pleading in pixelated sorrow. I dared to whisper into the void, "Who are you?" The silence that answered felt like a vow, binding me to voices I could never truly silence. The wallpaper peeled at a seam, revealing layers of old family photos, their eyes scratched out, as if someone erased every memory etched on these walls. I pressed my ear to the exposed plaster. Faint voices crackled like static, calling out names I didn't recognize but felt compelled to answer. The air quivered as a low chant threaded through the flat, syllables half-formed and ancient, slipping from mouths unseen and curling around me. A solitary chair faced the window, its back swaying gently though there was no breeze, an invitation or a threat I couldn't decipher. I reached out to still the chair, fingertips grazing its cold wood, and a tremor pulsed up my arm, alive with residual fear. An unexpected roar of static burst from the radio, tuning itself to a frequency of sorrow, voices entwined in ghostly harmony. I stumbled back, my phone lights flickering, revealing scratches forming letters on the floor. "Come," our voices made manifest. The walls groaned as the room contracted, boundaries melting into shadow, reality warping around the epicenter of those vanished voices. My reflection fractured across shards of broken glass, each fragment mouthing pieces of my name in a chorus of dread. I stood alone in the hush as the clock struck 2:14 a.m., its chime swallowed by silence, the promise of answers forever out of reach. The overhead lamp quivered, flickering like dying eyes, its pale glow revealing crawling shadows that writhed across the ceiling in a silent dance macabre. I noticed the fridge door ajar, its cold interior empty and spotless. Yet I recalled placing leftovers there hours ago, now vanished without trace. Soft, metallic clinks sounded from the closet, hangers shifting as if someone moved within the shadows among my clothes. My phone buzzed suddenly. The screen showed an incoming call from unknown, but when I answered, only hollow silence met my trembling voice. I glanced at the mirror. My reflection smiled back, though I hadn't moved, its lips curling into a grin edged with malice. Condensation traced words on the windowpane, "Help me," scrawled in dripping letters before vanishing under my shaking fingertips. The Persian rug beneath my feet seemed to ripple, threads undulating like the surface of a dark sea churned by unseen currents. A bedside lamp blinked out, plunging the room into pitch black, where tiny pinpricks of distant streetlights felt miles away. A breath tickled my ear, warm and urgent, a whisper too soft to understand but clear in intent. You are not alone. The clock hands blurred as time stuttered, seconds looping around 2:13 a.m., trapping me in an endless moment of haunting stillness. The walls in the hallway seemed to pulsate, each breath like hollow lungs exhaling sorrow, making the floorboards vibrate under my trembling steps. I shone my phone light down a cracked vent, revealing slender fingers curling around rusted edges, then vanishing the instant I flicked the beam. Distant sobs morphed into a lullaby, notes lilting with tragic warmth, beckoning me toward a room that shouldn't exist on my floor plan. The door at the end opened silently, its knobs turning of their own accord, unveiling a corridor I'd never walked, lined with empty frames. I felt a breath on my nape, an ancient lullaby humming through the plaster, pressing me forward as if guided by unseen fingertips. My flashlight flickered, revealing ornate keyholes embedded in the walls, each carved with names I couldn't read, yet recognized in dread. A hollow knock repeated from behind a locked door, echoing with my own heartbeat, until I could no longer tell which sound was real. The lock clicked open, though I never touched it, spilling a dim light that revealed a child's footprints trailing into darkness. Each step I followed the prints, feeling the floor tilt beneath me, as if gravity itself bent to carry me deeper into the void. At the corridor's end, a mirror faced me, fogged with breath that spelled my name before clearing to show two hollow eyes staring back. A low ripple passed through the glass table, its surface distorting reflections into elongated shapes that stretched toward me like desperate hands. Suddenly, the chandelier overhead swayed, though no breeze existed, its crystals chiming a soft lament that trembled through the empty air. My footsteps echoed as I descended into the basement door, its wood splintering under each step, revealing a corridor soaked in impossible darkness. A distant drip echoed through the void, each droplet forming ripples on a shallow pool I couldn't see, beckoning me toward unseen waters. I knelt to touch the water, its surface ice cold, and saw a pale face break through, eyes pleading before vanishing beneath the depths. The walls began to bleed ink-like stains that crawled toward the floor, each drop sighing secrets I could almost understand. I backed away, only to find the exit sealed by swirling shadow tendrils, pulsing as if alive with unseen heartbeat. A distant lull filled the basement, voices humming an old nursery rhyme in a chorus of fading breaths that chilled my bones. As I raised my head, the ceiling dissolved into starless void, revealing distant whispers dancing among invisible constellations. I realized then the voices weren't trapped here. They were beckoning me to join them, a promise of eternity at the stroke of 2:13 a.m. The floor beneath me vibrated with a deep, humming resonance, as if a subterranean chorus of voices throbbed in the shadows below. A door knocker tapped 3 times of its own accord, each metallic rap echoing my name in a cadence both familiar and alien. The paintings lining the corridor flickered like faulty film, tranquil landscapes warping into yawning voids at the blink of an eye. A child's laughter pealed through the air, playful yet menacing, bouncing off walls before dissolving into oppressive silence. The antique telephone on the side table rang with a shrill, static tone, but when I answered, only hollow emptiness greeted me. Clock hands projected onto the wall blurred into jagged shards, each fragment refusing to settle into a sensible hour. I felt feather-light fingertips graze my shoulder, a soft caress from behind. Yet when I spun, only empty air remained. Somewhere down the hall, a door slammed shut with unstoppable force, its echo reverberating like the final word of a sentence. The mirror in the entryway steamed over, fog tracing indecipherable symbols before clearing under my shaking breath. My phone screen flared to life. You watching. Beneath it, my name appeared. Letters sculpted from drifting shadows. The wallpaper's floral design rippled again, petals unfurling into skeletal hands that reached silently toward my stilled form. I stumbled backward into the foyer, only to see the front door swing wide open, revealing nothing but an endless void. The piano's final chord struck itself in the empty hall, its echo lingering like a question unanswered and impossible to ignore. My breath caught as the void outside pulsed with faint lights, like distant souls flickering in an unreachable sea of night. A hush fell, heavier than any silence I'd known, pressing in on me until my knees buckled beneath its weight. The clock's glass shattered without sound, its hands spiraling into the void as time itself unraveled around me. I reached out to catch them, fingertips grazing cold metal before my hand passed through empty space. A chorus of vanished voices rose in mournful crescendo, their harmony folding the room in upon itself. I felt myself drifting forward into those voices, drawn beyond the threshold of fear and into an eternal hush. And then, 2:13 a.m. struck again, the cycle unbroken, beckoning you to like and subscribe if you dare to join the chorus.